everyone, and welcome back to Cynical Cinema. I am your host, Ron, and I'm here with my co-host, Jake. How you doing, Jake?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Ron?
You know what's going on. We're going to be discussing the 1995 classic Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone.
Classic.
Yeah, classic.
So, could you quantify this as a classic or even a cult classic?
I just did. Wait, so you're saying cult classic?
One or the
95.
other. Like, does it quantify as something like that?
I would say neither.
Neither.
It's not a classic film by any stretch, and it's also not a cult classic. So there you go.
No, I agree. After sitting here, we watched the movie before we started this review.
Yeah, we always like to watch it again.
Just for a little context. And boy, it does not qualify as one or the other.
How dare you, Jake?
I kind of like the concept of it, just because of it's cyberpunk, the genre in and of itself. I really do enjoy.
I wouldn't say Judge Dredd. So now I'm going to come in on this because I am. I mean, you know this. I've talked about it a bunch of times. I'm a huge fan of the Judge Dredd comics.
Oh, definitely.
I'm a huge fan. Obviously, this movie is really stupid as far as an adaptation of the comics. Well, in certain ways.
Well, this movie definitely affected you a little bit more than it affected me. Like when I was growing up, I wasn't really even aware that this was a comic book.
Right.
I had really no idea. This was just kind of a Sylvester Stallone movie to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, same thing with me when I was younger. I didn't know this was a comic, whatever. And most American kids didn't know this because this was a UK thing.
Okay.
The publishing company 2000 AD, which is still going today, has
kind of like
Dredd.
heavy metal then.
Yeah, it's similar to that. It had Judge Dredd was pretty much like the flagship title, and there were a ton of other things too. It was generally science fiction stuff. Every once in a while, there would be some sort of like Conan-esque stuff as well.
Okay.
Thrown in there, but for the most part, it was science fiction. And like I said, Dredd was the main one. So this was, I feel like for kids in the UK going to see this, they'd probably been reading the comics,
A little more invested.
So right. So what a disappointment this must have been. Whereas if we saw this, and I didn't see this when I was 5 years old, but if I did, I would have just viewed it as a dumb Stallone action movie. Like,
that's
like
kind of
what,
yeah.
Like The Fifth Element, it was just a movie. It was created to be a movie. It wasn't a comic
movie
prior.
within a specific genre kind of a thing.
So
you saw the movie before you read the comics.
You know what? Not really. I mean, this probably was on like HBO and shit back in the day. You see little snippets of it, and you don't really think anything of it.
Yeah, no,
but I'm from America. I'm a Jersey boy.
Really?
Just like yourself.
Am I?
Yeah,
I guess I am. Honestly, this was a movie I saw. I think on almost in the same context as Blade Runner. Way back in the day, where it was just something I saw on cable.
Right.
That was my first exposure to this type of thing. I didn't really look further into something like this. With Blade Runner, I looked a little further. I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yep.
With Judge Dredd, not something I decided to look any further to. I almost looked at it as something like Cobra, or just more of a Sylvester Stallone type of movie.
Yes.
And then I did something with deeper context and with that actually had a comic book based on it. And I never really delved deeper. So it really, what is the deal with this shit? So like, what is a judge?
Oh, okay. So yeah, judges. So just to back up, I mean, they do a little crawl in the opening of this movie, which is fine. They have to explain that to the general movie-going audience.
I had no idea, so that gave me some context.
Basically, in the world of Judge Dredd, there was a nuclear war.
Okay.
And that's why when you see in the beginning, it's just a wasteland.
And when was this comic book released? In
1977 is when it first started.
Just after the Cold War, so you can kind of see where like the nuclear aspect of it comes into it.
Right, and it was also obviously at the height of Star Wars had just come out. It was a huge hit back in the day, and 2000 AD, the publishers were hounding the writer saying we need something to kind of keep this going, this momentum, because Star Wars was such a hit, so let's kind of do another science fiction thing. The funny thing is, Judge Dredd couldn't be any further from it. I mean, John Wagner, one of the creators, well, he is the creator. He kind of wanted him to be like a sci-fi Dirty Harry. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it was a cool concept to begin with, and then they just hit the ground running. And yeah, they were called progs. So it wasn't like you would buy it wasn't called like an issue, like American comics.
Oh, I have no idea.
A prog would be like 6 pages. So you would get 2000 AD magazine. And
so it's
like heavy metal.
Kind of, definitely like heavy metal. That was British too. It was like the Weird Tales, almost like what they did with H.P. Lovecraft and Algernon Blackwood and shit like that back when they were releasing just short stories. Yeah, you had 16 pages.
Same type of thing.
I like that. That's
so
kind of cool,
right? Because 2000 AD, like I said before, there were a lot of different titles. So what you would have the whole magazine would be like, okay, you get 6 or 7 pages of Judge Dredd, and then after that you get another 6 of ABC Warriors, which we'll talk about. Because of this movie has a little nod to that. Yeah. But you know what I mean? There were different titles, Rogue Trooper, and all these things like Nemesis the Warlock.
So by the time this movie came out, it literally had 18, almost 20 years of continuity.
Yeah, right.
There was some history.
Absolutely. Definitely. This was a long time coming. I'm sure they were trying to get a movie made.
So in terms of the story, with the movie compared to how the comics were, do you feel like they did any kind of justice to how Judge Dredd would try and tell a story? Or it was just like mishmash, convoluted, too many ideas thrown in the same
You nailed
pot.
It, right? You nailed. Yeah, absolutely. I commend them for sticking to the source material in the sense that they did take a lot of the main storylines throughout the years, because a lot of progs would just be a standalone story. It's like Judge Dredd is fighting a bunch of guys and they're doing a block war, and they actually do that in the beginning of this.
So what's the thing with a block war? What is a block?
Well, in Mega City 1, it was like the blocks are these huge. Just think of like these huge apartment buildings that are like way bigger than your average, New York City building that has a bunch of apartments.
So is it like a city block, or is like a block just a building?
It's just a building.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when they say like this block is under arrest at the beginning of this, then it just means this building is under arrest. Then not like literally the whole city fucking block is under arrest.
Well, they would just have. Sense. Well, there were so many criminals that they would just have block wars.
So, holy shit. So all right. So outside of the context of living in the city, anything outside of the city is just this barren wasteland?
Yeah. There are more than... This is Mega City 1. Obviously, there's Mega City 2. There's a bunch of different things.
Okay.
And then as you read the comics, they get into like... what are the Russians doing? Like, what's their East Mag
with the rest of the world, kind of a thing? Okay.
So, like, you could see a whole map of it, and they've had maps before, which is cool because there's. It's actually Judge Dredd has some great fucking world building.
Really?
But the thing is, like what you were saying, the the mega cities are very contained.
Okay.
And then, like you said, what's outside of them. You see it in the beginning of this. It's all the cursed earth is what they call it. So it's basically like Mad Max outside of outside of the mega cities.
So like Mad Max, like what we see in those movies are everything outside of any form of civilized literally civilization, you know,
Yeah.
cities or towns, anything where a bunch of people have to coexist.
Yeah.
This movie is kind of based with, I don't know, almost within that. But it's strange. This movie's weird. I didn't really, I tried to latch on to what was going on. So where Mad Max was kind of like all the shit going on in this nuclear fucking wasteland,
Yeah.
you know, like all this crazy shit going on. They were competing over simple stuff like fuel or water or all these basic essentials in order to survive. So outside of these, what Mega City One or
Yeah.
however whatever
Yeah.
the hell it is,
Yeah. Yep.
obviously they're thriving and they're surviving in terms of a large group, millions of people, maybe whatever the hell the case might be. Outside of that, it's kind of like Mad Max.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like a lawless post-apocalyptic wasteland, basically.
How is that sustainable?
It's not. It's it's here's the thing. This movie is really silly, but it's only a little bit more silly than the comics, if that makes sense. But not in a like the comics are good because they're comics and it works within that medium.
Sure.
I think a lot of things in this are obviously silly and general audiences can pick up on that when they watch it.
Did you like the representation of the mega city when you watch this movie? It may not be a good movie.
Yes.
How did you feel about the representation of it?
All right, I'm glad you said that because the beginning. So, and this is a stupid part of the movie, but they were thinking very mainstream. So they're like, okay, we have Stallone. He's a huge, A-list actor. He's a huge,
especially
movie star. He's a huge action star. So.
Definitely.
What else can we do? We need a comic relief character. So that's when they bring in Rob Schneider.
Oh my god.
As the comic relief. And his whole I don't know, his whole character is meant to be you going into Mega City because he's going in from, it was like a prison transporter. So I think he was getting out of jail.
So was there a representation of this character in the comic books?
Yes.
Or was he just
actually yes. So they call him like Ferguson, whatever his real name, but there is a storyline which they take a lot of influence from in this movie called The Day the Law Died, where Judge Dredd, similar to this, he's framed and cast out, as a judge.
Okay.
And in that, I'm pretty sure it's this storyline. It's been a little while, so
hey,
forgive me, but. There is this character Fergie, and he's like this slow, like he's basically like he's a tard.
Okay, does he serve the same purpose in the comic books that he does in this movie?
No. It's no comic. It's not even like comic relief in the. I guess it is in the book, but in a different way. Like in this one, he's just portrayed as
Rob Schneider,
a common little criminal guy. Like he stole something, so he got put into jail or whatever.
Stupid.
Fergie is just a straight up like he's like Sloth. That's what I was trying to say. He's like Sloth from the Goonies.
Okay.
And he ends up like I think inadvertently saving Mega City 1 and they make like a statue out of him and shit at the end of the whole thing.
So is this whole movie kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different
so many different storylines?
Oh, okay.
So it's like
are there any notable ones that you can think of off the top of your head?
So all the block wars that happen, that's obviously one of the influences, all the stories that have block wars in it. And then also, like I just said, The Day the Law Died.
Okay.
And feel free, if anybody wants to get into the comics, like write these down and check these out. So
definitely I'm doing. I've never really got into it. But just, we spent the last couple hours we rewatched the movie and tried to go over some things, and it's kind of sparked some interest, dude. Like it's kind of cyberpunk.
Well, the movie plays into that a little bit more than the comics aren't really like cyberpunk. I mean, I'm sure there are those aesthetics somewhere in there.
And this came out in what, 95? Would
Yeah.
you say? So that was the same year as like The Fifth Element.
No, I know, and
That
that's why
explains a
that's
lot.
why, and obviously you see like the Blade Runner elements, like it's raining a lot. So yeah, other than what did I say so far? I said the Black Wars, and then you have The Day the Law Died.
Yes, yeah, Day of the Law Died.
All right.
Yeah.
Also, there's a storyline with his brother Rico. You know what's funny about it? They changed that a little bit in this. The colony that he's on, like the prison colony.
Okay.
It says it's in Aspen.
Aspen, you literally like Aspen, Colorado.
Yeah, and in well, I'm assuming it just said Aspen.
I no, I agree. He's in a plasma field in
my
Aspen.
God. So in the comics, it's on the moon. It's on Titan. You know. So and it's cool because all the prisoners have this like apparatus or like this thing on their face so that they can like function on the moon. It's really cool, actually. They all look like when you get sent there as a prisoner.
Okay.
There's a really cool look to it. So anyway, Rico, Judge Dredd's brother, was sent there.
Okay.
And that was a whole storyline as well. And then I'm trying to think of and then Cursed Earth. The Cursed Earth was this huge storyline where Judge Dredd goes out into the Cursed Earth.
So like quintessential kind of
yeah,
storylines.
yeah. And so they took like 4 or 5 storylines. And the problem is they probably should have combined maybe just 2 of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Just
they
tried to make one cohesive story.
They
out of
tried
what the
to
hell
do
is happening.
everything. And it was
honestly
just too
such
much.
a convoluted movie. It ended so abruptly, but like we'll get into that down the line here.
Yeah.
But all right. So it was this amalgamation of a bunch of different stories. Like I kind of because I don't know. I never really read the comics. One thing I want to know, from somebody from your perspective is, how do you feel about what the representation was as a character in and of itself? Like, just the judge, you know, like, did they represent the fundamentals of what the hell that was in terms of the comics into the movie, regardless of it just being a Sylvester Stallone?
You know what's funny about this movie is I feel like they did everything else was okay except for Judge Dredd.
Really?
Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, let's just get this out of the way. The main problem with this whole movie,
Okay.
a lot, I think, could have been forgiven.
It's convoluted.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many problems with it. But what I'm saying is a lot of it could have been forgiven if Stallone just didn't take his fucking helmet off, because
Really?
everybody knows that
broke
Judge
it?
Dredd does not take his helmet off. You never see his face. It would have gone a long
don't
way
know. Okay.
just for him to not take his helmet off. It was so stupid. That's why
more in character.
Carl Urban with the 2012 Dredd movie, he was smart. He knew that he's like, I'm going to piss people off if I take off my helmet. I'm not taking it off. I'm not taking my helmet off.
That's fair.
And he got it right in that aspect. But the thing is, here's the thing.
Okay.
As a Judge Dredd fan, I wish there were, oh, nice. Cracking a blue moon. I wish there was an amalgamation of the 2 movies. Like, because I think this one went way too far into the silly aspects of Judge Dredd stories.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Judge Dredd stories get pretty silly sometimes.
Okay.
But there's a lot of satire there. There's a lot of commentary on,
playing on the
stuff.
genre.
And it's brilliant. But the new Dredd, I fucking love that movie. But I've also read all the
something
comics.
Urban?
Yeah, with Carl Urban.
Carl Urban, okay.
I was gonna say Keith Urban.
Yeah.
Fucking
I was like, is that his name? I don't know.
That got a little too I don't know. It's just me personally. I hate when
I don't have anything invested in this movie, like
No, I
in
know.
terms of that. So that's what makes it somewhat interesting, because the genre I like. I just don't. I've seen the Stallone one years ago, and I just revisited it recently because we wanted to do a review on it. But it didn't really make sense the first time I saw this movie. Like, I never sat down and read the comics or anything like that. And when you watch it just as a movie in and of itself, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, there's this dude, he's a cop. He's like kind of like RoboCop. And he is just almost like a machine with how he operates. Like, there's the law. There's nothing.
It's because that's all he was trained to do from birth. So it's like, so I get that. He just wasn't acting well.
But there was no articulation
Right.
with that, with the movie.
Right.
Not necessarily the comic. I'm sure if you read the comic, it's much different. I can appreciate that.
Right.
Just as a movie, holy fuck, dude.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, to finish my point, what the hell was I talking about? No, it's fine. But you were asking about the comics and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I'm talking
just
about
storylines.
Yeah, so I'm talking about both the movies. I wish there was some middle ground between both these movies because I kind of like.
Okay.
Like I said, I love Dredd, the 2012 one. It's just too. I get a little annoyed with filmmakers. They want to make something too like. Let's make. What if this happened in the real world?
Right.
And it's like, well, it didn't. So make a movie.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It was too. I don't know. Like Christopher Nolan does this in movies.
Yes.
With Batman. It's like
Fincher. Just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey man,
so
we're gonna make a
gritty and
detective
like
movie, but we're
grounded.
gonna take 7.
Yeah, you know when people say that, like, we're gonna make it grounded in reality. And it's like, why? It's it's silly to begin with. Like, look at the judges' outfits. It's silly to begin with. It worked in the comics, and I get that it could be sillier in movies, but at the same time, it's like you I don't know. That's why I'm saying, like, it got a little too silly with this. Like, I don't like the judge uniforms. I like that they were sort of faithful, but I didn't like the helmets. You know what I mean?
So you know how, like, I guess as an odd example, it would be like Captain America kind of had a funny looking outfit in the modern Marvel movies, but it looked kind of cool in the comic books, you know. But it looked passable in the modern movies for obvious reasons, budget, whatever. With the comic book, did you feel like there was that same contrast? Like, same thing. It's Captain America. It might look stupid if you really put it into anything. It's a leotard with some fucking wings on the top of it.
Uh-huh.
But with the first Avenger and all that shit, it's not a bad movie, and the costume really wasn't that bad. With this movie, as a casual watcher, not somebody who has any investment in the comics whatsoever, it was fucking horrific. Like, I've seen the Brian Bolland stuff with this comic. Dude, that's all I've really ever seen of Judge Dredd. Mm-hmm. It's just Brian Bolland artwork, and it is spectacular. Yep. It's not just good; it's that next level of holy fuck. It's like the Killing Joke. Uh-huh. Like, you've seen the Joker, you've seen Batman, but when you've seen that articulated through the lens of somebody like Brian Bolland, it is something else.
Yeah, he's my favorite Judge Dredd artist. No offense to also, and I forgot to mention too, it's co-created. So John Wagner was the writer initially, and Carlos Esquera, has passed away, rest in peace. He was the initial artist, and I really like his stuff too. Like, he did some fucking great storylines and everything. Sure. Bolin, to me, I just liked his style a little more. You know what I mean? It's honestly
amazing.
Every Judge Dredd artist, there was rarely a bad one when you go through all these stories.
Oh, so it's one that's had a lot.
It's just had so many good. Actually, if I had to say somebody that you would know that maybe crossed over into the American stuff, Steve Dillon did some stuff. He did Preacher.
Oh, okay.
With Garth Ennis. So
yeah.
There was definitely some of those guys that crossed over into American comics. I mean, and Bolin, obviously Bolin did too. He did fucking Killing Joke. He did so many covers for DC. He did everything. But Bolin is he's the shit.
He's one of the goats, bro.
He is the shit. Like, I love his stuff. I have his whole what's it called? The complete Brian Bolin,
Oh,
Judge Dredd
dude.
stories,
The art
hardcover.
books.
I got it
Yeah.
signed by Brian Bolin and John Wagner, which is
It
fucking
does.
amazing.
I'm envious of this.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Ron, that motherfucker.
So good, dude.
But
Anyway, yeah.
but even for the time period, this is 1995. Those costumes are a pathetic,
Yeah, I don't like the helmet. I mean,
but not just a representation of what they could do for the comic.
yeah.
Like a representation for special effects and where they were at 1995. Like, are
Yeah.
you out of your fucking minds? It just bothered me.
Yeah.
That really bothered me. And the rest of the costumes throughout the whole movie, except for that one crazy villain towards the end, the mechanical dude with one arm.
Oh, Mean Machine. Yeah,
Dude.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they did a lot of...
Like, that's where the budget went.
Yeah, no, it's great, though, because that's the whole Angel gang. Like, they were all in the original comic, you know? Like, they
I
had
have
a
no
bunch
idea.
of storylines,
No
and
idea.
they've been a thorn in Judge Dredd's side for a while, and it was cool to see them in this movie. And honestly, they were fucking portrayed great in this. Like, if you just watch that
Really?
isolated, here's the thing. It sucks that Judge Dredd was just like guy in like a prison outfit with no fucking helmet on, because if he was captured by them,
They would keep his
no, but I
top
mean,
hat on.
well, just for the sake of the comics, you know what I mean?
But yeah, if I put it like that, you see where it gets ridiculous.
I know, but it works in the comics.
So it would almost make more sense if they did it in the comics, like you just couldn't see his face or something like that. Like,
All
they
I'm
would
saying
cut out that
is if
perspective.
he actually looked like Judge Dredd in that moment, it would be perfect, because the
So there's
Angel
been-
gang was perfect in this, and Mean Machine looked amazing.
How many years has Judge Dredd been out to this day?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't tell you how.
So
many
that
years,
long,
yeah.
and they still make those
Yeah.
stories.
Oh yeah, they're still going. They're still going.
They've never revealed his face.
No,
All right,
that's
Well,
the
then-
rule,
then-
man.
all
You
right,
don't
then-
you don't do
all
that
right, then fucking A.
because you don't.
I have
need
no
to.
idea. I have no idea what the
No,
rules
I know,
are.
I
with
know,
Judge
I know.
Dredd. This is new to me.
Yeah, but I mean,
I like it though. I like the feeling of it. It's very science fiction.
mhm.
I have no idea what's going on because all I've ever seen was the movie, and it's fucking ridiculous. It's a movie about so you have the fucking Rob Schneider character. It's all the comic relief, typical almost 80s formula.
Yeah,
and then
it's not
they
great.
introduce him into the brother. I guess down the line, or like
Wait, what?
there's
The brother?
the brother of Sylvester Stallone.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. If you're gonna say that it's based on two different things, it's the whole Rico storyline of Rico coming back, and then it's the day the law died.
Okay,
So
there's
it's
very
those two
specific
things.
storylines.
It's those. If you had to say the main plot, it's those two things. Okay. It's just not executed that well. I mean, I know we say this a lot when we're criticizing movies, but it's like the idea is cool. It's just not executed well.
That's fair. That's fair. I know I mentioned before, like one of my biggest hangups with this movie was just kind of the costume design and everything like that. Like I thought the representation of like the Drudge costume compared to the Brian Bolland feel of when you see that costume illustrated was kind of fucking weird, and it's fucking hacky. And I don't know. It throws the whole fucking thing off for me for this movie. Was there anything like that as a comic book reader that just totally rubbed you the wrong way about seeing this movie?
Well, yeah, I mentioned the helmets, and also
Not just like a costume, like just something in general about being a comic book reader that was just like, I didn't like that. It didn't jive with what I know from reading the comics.
well, other than the obvious Judge Dredd taking off his helmet, which is sacrilege, you know.
Right.
A lot of things he shows emotion in this, which is not something Judge Dredd does.
Really?
Not at all. He's a very
So-
cold character. It's everybody else, not everybody else, but other people around him and citizens or whatever. That's where you tell the story. Judge Dredd is
Okay.
just like this
Force of
stone
nature.
cold. Yeah, he's like this cold fucking guy that he lets this other stories happen. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So there's
He's a component
yeah.
of whatever the hell is going on at the time.
It's not like the comics are completely cold-hearted. I mean, they're funny. There's a lot of satire to it and everything, but yeah, it's complicated because I don't know. I get it for a movie, and I understand. That's why I say it's complicated, because I feel like the movie executives are probably like, well, we have to. The main character can't just be like this heartless piece of shit.
Totally
and
could.
It's like, well, you could if you were talented. You could make it happen.
You can make a good movie,
but instead they tried to make it this. I don't know. Maybe they thought this was going to be like a hit movie with Stallone as the lead, and Rob Schneider was going to be like the good, comedic relief. And then you also, well, let's talk about the other cast members. So we have Diane Lane as Hershey, who is another character from the comics.
Yeah, definitely.
But the thing
you know why they call her Hershey, right? She had a nice butt.
I know. The whole fucking time we were watching this, you were like, yeah, she's got a nice butt, man. I kind of did a Stallone there when I just said that.
Little Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, I mean, it's the nice fucking butt. Truth. Yeah. I mean, hey, credit where credit is due.
But this is why I say it is a huge amalgamation of a bunch of things, because Judge Hershey doesn't come in, I believe, until the Judge Child storyline, which has nothing to do with any of this.
How far into the continuity?
Pretty far into it. Okay. But that's all right. They wanted her as a female.
Yes, female representation.
No, they wanted her as the main female character in this.
That's fair.
Which is weird to me, because Judge Anderson I always thought was better.
Which one is Anderson?
All right, so Judge Anderson, they finally put in the 2012 Dredd movie.
Oh,
she's in that with Dredd, and it's great, actually. It's really good.
So not in this movie.
No, not in this movie.
Gotcha.
She is a member of the Psi Division, which is
what the fuck is that?
All right, so there are psychics in this universe because of the fallout from like the radiation and everything from like the apocalyptic whatever.
Okay.
You just have to go with it. You're like, there are some people in the future that are psychics now.
I'm not diminishing. I have no idea. So
the judges took advantage of that, and they created a whole Psi Division. So these are people that can, solve crimes and shit, so probably Minority Report style. You know what I mean?
Okay, so they turned into mutants. Okay.
Yeah. There's a whole thing with mutants.
Professor X's.
No, for real, and that's another thing with the Judge Dredd comics is they call them muties. So it's a whole different thing, man. There's a lot of lore.
I have literally no fucking idea.
I know. I'm explaining it.
No, it's awesome.
And honestly, I feel like me explaining all the comic lore is more entertaining than the movie, but
it might be.
Whatever.
I'm not going to lie.
No, but honestly, it has a lot to do with this, because they did put in a lot of the comic stuff, and they kind of hint at it. They hint that they're going to do it in the beginning, because they do a proto, the Marvel introduction.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
In the beginning of the Marvel movies, where it's all the pages flash. This was like the prototype for that. They were literally just showing a bunch of Judge Dredd comic books.
I'm not gonna lie, that's actually 100% true.
Right? Like they did that before fucking Marvel did it. True. Yeah. As dumb as this movie is, like they did that. There were probably a lot of ideas that people looked at and said, "These are good. That we could probably do it better."
But so all right. So as a comic book reader for something like Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
What would you have done in terms of trying to introduce this character to the masses, like kind of what they did with Sylvester Stallone? Like what would have been the storyline or the couple of storylines that you would have picked to try and articulate something like a story like this to everybody else to make them kind of enjoy it?
Okay.
Because this was like really complicated.
I'll tell you right now. I wouldn't do a movie. I would go more long form. So I'd do a series. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're introduced to Dredd. You don't get a fucking origin story. You're introduced to Dredd. You're introduced to the world. You're introduced to Mega City 1.
Context.
I actually don't mind the way they did this, where it was just a block war, and then he shows up. and you're kind of introduced to this world, and then he's
typical action.
Yeah, like this is just a day.
Like
this is just a day in the job.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
No.
Okay, I would have done that, but I'm not talking about the main storyline. I would have done.
Oh yeah, no. That I just mean with the Sylvester Stallone movie.
It was really retarded the way he did it.
I didn't like how he did it. That was my whole thing. But really, so
I would probably start with a scene. Like the same idea,
right.
but not as stupid as that. Like I know what you're saying because it was a little silly.
Yeah, no, the concept was fine. It was just how it was done that bothered me. So, but really, as a fan of the character.
All right, so that one of the first big stories, because they do this every once in a while. It'll be a lot of shorter, just random. Crime stories or whatever, just street level stuff with Judge Dredd. But then every once in a while they'll have an overarching thing. It's like when American comics do events, and it's like,
oh, definitely.
Oh, we're doing the fucking Infinity Gauntlet, that whole thing. Right, we're doing Nightfall for Batman, whatever.
Dude, yeah.
It's like that. They'll do events basically.
Definitely.
So the first big, if you want to call it an event or a long story for Dredd, was kind of like a robot uprising.
Okay. AI type of shit?
No, just straight up robots.
Oh,
just okay. So Dredd, I would start with that. I would start with the fucking comics. It's like this worked in the comics, and I know people say that all the time. It's like, well, it might not work for TV or film. It's like, yeah, but if you don't have to do it exactly the way it was done in the comics, but maybe just start with the first story that they told, and then build up to all the don't just start on like stuff that would have more of an impact if you've done like 4 or 5 seasons of a TV show. You know what I mean?
If you have more context.
Yeah. So I would start off very action heavy, but just giving hints of the lore and the world and stuff. But I would do the whole robot uprising. It was the main robot that was like starting this whole this rebellion or whatever you want to call it. Right. His name was Kenneth, so he was Call Me Kenneth.
Kenneth.
and it was cool though. It was very 70s, and that was the first storyline. So it's like you can modernize that and you can make it a cool action story for the first season or whatever.
So you would almost start where the comic book started.
Yeah. Because you start slow like that. It's just a simple premise. It's like this robot uprising. You'd have some cool robot action. You could have Judge Dredd fighting robots. You could also learn more about the judges and the way they work and everything. And then you slowly go into all these storylines that the movie did, just do them better.
Did the world feel as kind of cyberpunk as what they tried to do with the whole Fifth Element thing they were trying to fucking pass off or whatever the fuck? When they were doing it, like
it depends on the
comic book.
It depends on the artist. Some artists, I don't know. They
for the original run.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like some of the artists depicted Mega City 1, in not a cyberpunk way. It looked more like retro science fiction. Okay. And then as the years go on, you do see elements of that with. When you're just on the streets or in a club or wherever, like you'll see some styles that are reminiscent of, cyberpunk aesthetic.
So basically something like Mobius or...
A little bit, yeah. But the good thing about the 2000 AD stuff is you don't feel like they're influenced by that stuff. Like you didn't really see like a Mobius knockoff in any of these comics. They all had their own style, which was cool.
No, I respect the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, even somebody like Brian Bolland, it's so distinctive, but there's just this clarity to his illustrations and everything that he does.
And it's so detailed, but at the same time, it's
simplistic.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I can't describe it.
Very hard to articulate, but everybody kind of respects it. Like I kind of look forward to our review of when we get to it, like the Killing Joke.
Oh yeah, for Batman Book Club.
Dude,
yeah,
definitely. Just down the line. I fucking love that stuff.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I do a Batman Book Club, but Brian Bolland, the artist we're talking about that did a lot of Judge Dredd work. he did the art for the Alan Moore story, The Killing Joke, which is kind of like one of the most famous Joker stories.
If not the most famous
Yeah.
Joker story ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like easily one of my favorites.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not one I take too seriously. I what's cool about that story? Whatever. We'll
get into that
when
when
This
we're gonna do a
fucking
podcast.
movie was so bizarre because they have the shittiest costumes in the world with this movie. Like just in terms of my perception of films, it's like, oh my god, this is horrible. It's a leotard with some fucking plastic on top of it, and then they have some of the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, some of the coolest like practical stuff.
The
Really
practical
good.
effects, like they had the robot.
Okay, so yeah,
that comes up. Like, what the fuck
all
was
right.
that robot?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Mr. Ron?
I will tell you. I will tell you.
But what the fuck?
This is one of the interesting things because you don't really see this with other comic book companies that kind of venture into movies and stuff. So when Rico in the movie, when he first breaks out of jail, when he goes to some like it's kind of like a mechanic or something. I don't really know. I think he's looking for a lawgiver.
Yes.
When he goes there,
no
he
idea.
notices that robot that you're talking about in the background, and he mentions that it's an ABC warrior.
What the fuck is an ABC
All right, so
warrior?
that's really cool because if you know your shit about 2000 AD comics, ABC Warriors was another title in that, in the 2000 AD line.
No, I have no idea. Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it wasn't in the Judge Dredd universe. This is not like the Marvel universe where
so
it's like
not
all
in the
these
same continuity.
No,
or
it's
anything.
not at all. But they just kind of did a nod to it.
That's cool.
And
as fuck.
and when you first see this movie, you think, oh, that's just a nod, and they're gonna leave it there. But Rico actually he makes that ABC warrior his like.
One of the
his
main
henchman.
villains. Yeah, like holy fuck.
But that's kind of cool. Like if you think about, I was saying this to you before before we started this. That's kind of like having a movie made about like an Image comic or something. So like let's just say Spawn. Okay, there was an Image comic back in the day.
Definitely.
But then think of another Image comic. It's like Savage Dragon showing up in a Spawn movie.
Right. Doesn't
Right?
make any fucking sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but like they're owned by the same company, so they can do that if they wanted
Todd
to.
McFarlane said, "Hey,
Right, they're not in the same universe,
Right.
but they can show up, I guess, if they wanted to in the movie. So
Exactly.
that was actually like I've never seen that happen before, and
No,
the
it was
fucking Judge Dredd
amazing.
movie did it.
it was amazing."
But you really like the design of that.
I love the design of it. It's
Mhm.
seriously retro as fuck, and that was cool as fuck. But the representation of it, and I guess it was an automaton. It had to be some kind of puppet or something like that. Just fucking awesome,
Yeah, man.
dude. Like compared to the costumes, it's like, dude, whoever the costume designer was I don't want. It was pathetic. It was horrible. It was just superficial, too clean, didn't make any fucking sense. It looks like shit. It almost takes you out of the movie every time you see somebody dressed up in a costume in this goddamn movie. But the special effects, like when they got down to the practical effects, whether it was the ABC Warrior,
yeah.
that fantastic. Obviously a puppet or something like that, but looked great. Or it was the dude at the end. That they had to twist the thing on his head. And,
Mean Machine, yeah.
dude,
Mean Machine
fucking
looked great.
awesome.
And if I'll show you a picture, I'll get it up while we're talking, but I'll show you a picture of Mean Machine from the comics, and
so
they fucking nailed it,
dude.
man. They really
fucking
did.
out of this world, and it looks fucking just great.
Yeah.
Great. Like, holy shit. But
Yeah.
I have no context for this character. Like, I don't know what storyline that character came from. Or
He's in a
anything like
bunch. I mean, he was a mainstay
that. So
within
he
the
was
within the
Daredevil's bullseye.
I wouldn't go that far because I feel
Okay.
like that's reserved for Judge Death, and that's obviously not in this movie.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mean
No,
Machine.
it's fucking
And
wild.
the whole Angel Gang, there were so many storylines with them, and I really did think they did a good job
Absolutely.
with Mean Machine.
No, it's fucking wild, dude.
I just wish that Judge Dredd had his helmet on during that scene.
That was the one thing that bothered you.
It does, because I'm a nerdy comic fan. You know how it is.
Ron, get a hold of yourself. There was a point watching this movie where it's just like a lot of science fiction movies I like, regardless of their flaws. You know, minute or, just outright catastrophic, whatever that might concern. This movie was a little bit of both, where it was like, I kind of like the concept of it, but the execution and generally how everything was gone about it, whether it be the ridiculous fucking costumes or simplicity of some of the story or something like that I didn't really understand because I didn't have a lot of context. It just kind of ruined it for me. With this movie, was there anything really salvageable for you or anything that you could sit there and be like, you know what? For all its flaws, because they tried to do this or because they tried to do that, it doesn't bother me as much. Like I could tolerate this movie. Or is this a horrible movie for you? And it's just like, I like that Sylvester Stallone is in it. And like, fuck everything else. Like, how do you feel about this movie?
I get that at the time, huge Judge Dredd fans probably went to see this really excited. And then they were probably, I would say, probably 90% of them were really disappointed. From reading all the comics and everything, being so excited about it. But here's the thing. Judge Dredd, and I make this argument all the time, because when I talk about Star Wars being ruined or something, you can't get that back.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. Judge Dredd was already a comic, okay?
Right.
So if you make a film adaptation of it and it's bad, it's like, okay, well, that's not the comic. So
it's like Batman.
Yeah, it's like they made a shitty Batman movie, but I can still go and read fucking Dark Knight Returns or any good Batman arc or whatever, and it's still good because it's not the same thing.
It's palatable.
The problem with Star Wars is when you fuck with it and you ruin it, that's it. Because I can't say, well, that was just the movie and the book Star Wars was way better because it came from a movie. It's only the movies.
Right.
So you fuck that up, it's gone forever. You know what I mean? Whereas this is a silly movie and it doesn't really do Judge Dredd justice. No pun intended.
Just as a character.
As a character.
Yeah.
But I could still watch it and go, well, that's dumb and this is stupid. But it doesn't really piss me off that much because at the end of the day, like, the character of Judge Dredd in the comics is still, it's a totally different thing from this. It's not the same thing. It's not like this is canon from the comics. You know what I mean?
Separate.
It's a totally separate thing.
Separate entities, kind of.
Yeah. I wish it was better because here's the thing. It looks really cool. Like I said, I miss this old style of filmmaking. There's practically I doubt there's actually any CGI in this.
I mean, it was
maybe like one thing because it was back
in the 90s,
95. So I don't know. I don't even know if they had that technology or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I really love the way this looks. To be honest, I just wish it was better. I don't know.
And that's the parts that are almost unforgivable. The parts that are kind of where they actually put some effort into it, and you had some. I don't know. There were some cool moments with this movie, like the ABC robot thing.
Yeah, the ABC Warrior.
Yeah,
you were impressed with that.
I was very impressed with that. The character at the end, Machine.
Mean Machine. Yep.
Mean Machine, dude. Fucking incredible.
Yep.
Practical effects and just how it looked and the general feeling of it. Even all the other characters look fucking ridiculous. They're in fedoras and trench coats, and they just have long hair, and they have a couple of fucking horrible lines. They're just horrible acting, not horrible acting, but horrible script and horrible representation of some of these characters. Like, you can't take them seriously. Then you have this amazing practical creature or something like that right behind them, and it's just like contrasting how ridiculous and almost unwatchable the other characters are. It's just this is such a fucking weird movie for me. Like, I don't know how to feel about Stallone's Dredd. Like, I like it. I just watched it recently. The last time I watched it, I just watched it with Mr. Ron tonight before we did this review. The last time I watched it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. Like, a long time. This is not a big movie for me.
How old are you? Like 57?
I am fucking 30 years old, dude.
Oh.
But there was nothing that really struck a chord other than it being like a Cobra movie or a cliffhanger movie.
Cobra.
You know, just a Stallone movie.
The law. The law.
It's just, I don't know. This is a weird movie. It's a conflicting movie for me. There's a lot of cool shit about it that I fucking love. There's a lot of shit that it's almost unpalatable.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, the whole thing, they get out of the cursed earth because their plane was shot down. They were supposed to go to prison. Then he ends up going back. He has to confront his brother. Then he takes down his brother, and the movie ends. You know, it's like it's a very simple thing.
Like
at the end.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's just everything happens consecutively, and there's no real build up. There's no mystery.
Yeah.
There's no fucking nothing. It's just a typical nonsense kind of action movie from the 90s or even the late 80s. This feels like a fucking late 80s movie.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I can only imagine how somebody who came from the comics would sit there and watch this movie and be like, "Oh fuck."
No, that's what I was saying. I feel like people were probably so disappointed, especially people in the UK.
Yeah,
they probably hated that their shit, like their good comic that came out all the time. They were all reading it. They were all, you know. This was in the zeitgeist of UK culture, and
it was molested.
And then it was a Stallone blockbuster movie with Rob Schneider making jokes. And it's just, you know, when he's in the cursed earth and he's fighting guys and stuff, it's just a Stallone action movie. It has nothing to do with Judge Dredd. He's just a guy. No. And this is my problem with a lot of things when they do comic book stuff and they try to adapt it. Yeah, just for example, I remember, I watched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil on Netflix.
Yeah, great.
And I was like, really good.
Great show.
And then the third season came around, and I saw the trailer. I just saw the trailer, right?
The one with Punisher.
Yeah. And no, that was the second season. That was fun.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But the third season came around, and I saw the trailer, and I remember because my brother is a huge Daredevil fan, and I
love Daredevil.
Anybody who's listening, me too. Anybody who's listening to this probably knows my brother Doug from the Drunken Idaho podcast. Where we did the commentary. Yeah, we did the commentary to the David Lynch Dune. But anyway, he watched the season already, and I remember I didn't get around to it yet. I was busy with work and stuff, and I remember texting him, and I said, just answer one question for me. Does Daredevil wear his suit in the third season? And he said no. And I said, okay, I'm not watching it then.
That's
because I'm so sick of this shit. It's like, it's already a comic book. It's fucking silly to begin with. Put him in his fucking costume. And I feel the same way with this. It's like, we're just watching Sylvester Stallone fight Mean Machine. We're not watching Judge Dredd fight Mean Machine.
I can respect that. Because I kind of had an issue with that, especially from the Daredevil context. It's like a lot of that was the man without fear. It wasn't really Daredevil.
No, it was Suit Guy.
Right.
And it's like, I didn't come here to watch guy in a suit, blind suit guy. Yeah. I came here to watch Daredevil. I want to see him in his red costume. I want to see him kicking ass.
And we finally had
throwing
that
billy
at
clubs.
the end of the first season, and they took it away from us pretty quick.
Yeah. So,
that's
kind of my stance on that.
Totally agree with you. I can see where you're coming from then with this.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people were pissed off for the same reasons. I mean, it's such an obvious reason. It's supposed to be Judge Dredd, not Sylvester Stallone running around.
Right. It was, I don't know. It was a strange movie. I'm not a big brainless action movie type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I needed a little something to it. And this movie was a little difficult to palate. Just because I don't have any context coming from the comic book or literally anything like that. I just wish that the chick, who was the chick in this movie?
Diane Lane.
Yeah. No, like Monica Bellucci, something, something awesome. I didn't, like, if you're going to have a brainless movie, at least have a dime. Like, don't have this random, just random broad. I don't know. It was just fucking weird. The story was mediocre, in my opinion. There wasn't a whole lot to it. That's what made it mediocre. It's not that it was horrible. You had Max von Sydow, which, if you're gonna you're gonna try and take a bad movie to a tolerable movie.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that was totally drunk. Tolerable. Tolerable.
Have you had a
movie.
beer tonight?
I might have had one or 12.
Yeah, all right.
You put Max von Sydow in there, but that didn't even help. It was just
no. He didn't. That's what I was gonna say. He didn't really elevate it as much as you would think he would. But that all comes down to the script and the way everything is planned out, and it's not his fault.
No, I'm not blaming him. I just don't think it was the right movie made at the right time with the right people.
Yeah, but I mean, bottom line, still funny to watch, and I had an excuse to talk about a lot of Judge Dredd comics, so that was actually one of the better ones for me.
Fucking hey, dude.
This wasn't like Predators, right? I was like, yeah, it was kind of stupid.
What are you talking about? It's right up there with fucking Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now.
Oh boy.
And then there's Predators.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic. It's one of the perfect movies.
Yeah. So as far as sitting down, drinking, and chatting while we were watching it, was this at least a little bit
tolerable?
Yeah.
All right. So as somebody who hasn't read the comics, who has no really real take on anything having to do with Judge Dredd in a comic book sense, this movie is watchable, sort of. It's watchable if you have a high tolerance for nonsense. Some of the special effects are kind of cool, like the ABC Warrior, or and that other motherfucker, something machine that I can't remember. Sylvester Stallone remembers, but it's not that bad. But honestly, in terms of just regular fucking action movies, like, dude, this movie is not that great. It's a shitty movie.
I didn't like a lot of the emotional beats with Judge Dredd. It's like, no, this wouldn't have happened. He's fucking stone cold, dude. Not the wrestler, but you know what I mean.
It's just a kind of a shitty movie for somebody who has no context.
Mm-hmm.
Just like me. Like, I'm sitting here watching it just like I would any other Sylvester Stallone movie. And just as an action movie, it's horrible. It's not. It's just not.
And
that
this guy directed like CSI episodes, and what was it? I think he directed like that show Gotham.
Oh my god!
The show without Batman in it.
Yes,
and stuff like that. Also,
Jim Gordon.
I think it was like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Like he did that. God. So that's the kind of caliber we're working with.
Yeah.
Here. But yeah, I mean, funny to watch again. I do love I've said it a bunch of times in this, the aesthetic, that the way things were back in the day just kind of looked cooler than just the CGI mess that we have now.
I agree. They tried.
And that was cool to see, like Mega City 1 in that setting. It's funny because if I want to see a Judge Dredd movie, I'll watch like the first 2 minutes of this movie and then just turn it off.
Right.
You go, oh, cool. Mega City 1 looks fucking kind of cool. It looks the same way I kind of see it in the comics, and then you just shut it off.
So at a certain point in this movie, does it feel like it morphs from something you recognize in the comics to something that's completely unrecognizable?
Yeah,
like
I'll
they
tell you
tried
the
to make a
exact
different
moment.
movie?
So it's all right. So they do the whole Mega City 1 intro. Looks really cool. Then you're introduced to fucking. Well, no, you are at the same time, like Fergie coming in, and then block wars are starting, and you're like, okay, this is kind of like RoboCop esque, and even though RoboCop totally ripped off the Judge Dredd comics, you kind of got the feel,
like a shitty RoboCop movie.
You kind of got that feel. The block wars are like, oh shit, this might be good, and then the moment Max von Sydow calls Judge Dredd into his office, and he takes his helmet off, that's when you turn the movie off. You go, no, nope. You can almost like there should be a super cut or whatever, like a fan made movie where it just does all that, and then as soon as he grabs his helmet to take it off, the credits roll. You're like, there's no story. That's it.
I can see where you're coming from.
Because there's too much of the movie after that where he takes his helmet off and he's just Stallone for the whole movie, and there's no Judge Dredd in a Judge Dredd movie.
That makes sense. It removes the judge from the dread.
Mm-hmm.
That almost makes sense. Like
that's really the biggest reason why this sucks.
Just detracts from the character.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really it. I mean,
are there any moments where you just from reading the comics from this early on, because of obviously the context of what they were trying to do, that you would have wanted to include? Just off the top of your head.
I mean,
crazy.
Not really, because they took like a grab bag of some good storylines. I just wish they did them better.
No, me too.
So that was
you know what I wish they included? Monica Bellucci.
Oh, here we go with the Monica Bellucci. Jeez.
But no, I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's really it. I mean, pretty good movie. And what am I saying? No, it's not. It's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
Oh my God.
It's not. It's not that bad. Like, I would watch it if you have a tolerance for nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we could say about this. A lot of cool elements. I love some. I don't know. Were there any matte paintings in this?
Probably.
It kind of looked like it with the cursed Earth border. Where it goes into Mega City 1. I feel like they kind of extended it more. You know when you have to make something bigger.
Yeah, totally matte paintings. Yeah, no,
but I love the look of all that old stuff.
Oh, me too.
And that's maybe why, as much as I have a problem with how they totally destroy Judge Dredd as a character, I kind of forgive it just because it looks cool, like the old school style of filmmaking. That's all that we don't get anymore. Yeah.
No, it's definitely.
That's really it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything crazy to contribute in terms of just bitching about one thing or another in terms of comparisons.
Now, I'll ask you this question real quick before we end.
Yeah, no problem.
Have you seen the 2012 Judge Dredd movie? Or was it just called Dredd?
Probably not since it came out.
All right. We are going to we're going to do that one.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that one because now that you've seen this, I just want to see how you feel about that one, because it is completely different. Like, completely. And I would like to get your take on it. So
I'd be interested.
Yeah.
All right.
But it was fun to watch this. This is still a fun movie to watch. And this is one of those movies that there's a lot of movies that are bad and it's hard to get through. I can't even make fun of this. I can't even say anything funny about this.
Right.
This isn't one of those movies. You can watch this fucking movie because it's not that long, and you can watch it and you can make fun of it and you can have a good time with it, regardless if you know the lore of Judge Dredd or whatever. So it's still fun to watch.
So would you recommend it as a comic book, somebody
No.
who comes from the comic
No.
books?
Nope. Don't
Would
do
you
it.
recommend it from somebody who comes from just the Sylvester Stallone
Yeah.
action?
Because I have a lot of friends. I have a
part
lot
of
of friends that aren't really into the comic stuff like I am, but they're like movie buffs and they want to watch bad movies. They want to watch any movie.
Anybody? Yeah,
I would recommend it for
good
that
people.
type of person.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
If you want to watch
not
a
the
bad
comic
movie,
guy. But then if you're listening to this podcast and you heard me talk about all of the storylines and all the lore of the real Judge Dredd comics in 2000 AD,
sure,
check those out. Definitely.
yeah.
But then watch this movie after you've read like a good amount of Judge Dredd just so you can laugh at it and be amused by a couple callbacks or whatever.
Right.
That's about it.
So this won't be a movie that'll just piss you off.
No, and I think like what I said though, because it's just an adaptation, you can kind of forgive it. Just be like, well, that was dumb, but it doesn't affect the good stuff
It's
that
not
comes
a bad
out.
movie. It's just a bad movie. You know, and
Get out of here, Jake. You're fucking fired.
There's
dude.
nothing wrong with it, dude. Like I love some of the aesthetics. I like some of the matte paintings. I think the matte paintings are probably the best part of this movie. You just setting up the world when they try to articulate the world to everybody else and present it on screen, whether it's the city or whatever, something random. Like I really love that shit. The rest of this movie is kind of fucking ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really hard to palate.
That's basically it in a nutshell, really, if you
Yeah.
want to describe it. Yep.
Far from the end of the world, but not the first movie I would throw on.
No.
But honestly, it was kind of fun to watch and revisit, dude. I haven't seen this movie in 15 years. Mr. Ron was like, dude, we're doing Dredd.
Yeah.
And I was like, which one? He was like, we're doing the Stallone Dredd.
Yeah.
And I was like, driver, you got it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun to fucking watch.
It was fun.
And it had Max von Sydow in it, so I can't complain, bro.
I know. I finally got a movie in there with Max von Sydow in it. So, yeah, I mean, check it out, guys. If you haven't seen it, just for the, watching a train wreck, I guess, on screen.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But there's some good stuff in there as far as effects and, practical stuff that would be cool to.
Definitely worth
People that
revisiting.
like
It was really
that type
cool.
of thing,
Definitely
yeah.
really cool.
So, yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. And, please be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this channel. We have a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of Dune content. And,
Definitely do.
yeah. And then we have this podcast, too. We have 2 podcasts with me and Jake.
Yeah.
And it's, or Jake and I. Sorry.
Joe, yeah.
Sorry. I'm
Gotta
drunk.
be proper.
I know. And that is the Drunken Idaho podcast, which is the
coming
Dune.
soon.
Yeah,
driver.
we're working on that. We take a long time with the Drunken Idaho podcast because we want to make sure we have the right.
Well, just honestly, trying to articulate ourselves clearly with that, because the lore with that is so almost complicated, and it's been overdone with a lot of other channels in terms of the like lore and all that stuff. So it's like just us trying to discuss how we feel about the book or the movie or whatever. It's like not taking it too seriously. It's just normal people enjoying shit.
Yeah.
And that's hard to really get a grasp on for people like us or just articulate in general. So it's going to be fun. I think the next we have down the line is something we completely disagree about.
Oh, yeah, for that one. But, yeah, we'll get to that.
We will definitely get to that.
When it happens.
It's in the book.
Yeah. So that's the other podcast we have. There are 3 or 4 episodes out now from that, the Drunken Idaho podcast. And then we also have this one, which we have way more episodes on because it's just us watching movies and shooting the shit and having a couple beers and having a good time. So that's Cynical Cinema.
Don't take it too seriously.
Yep.
You
and
know?
I'm going to actually make 2 separate playlists for those so people can distinguish between the 2.
No, it would be good. Man, this is just something we enjoy doing. It's not something to take too seriously. It's us watching 80s movies, 90s movies, or just shit we enjoy.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
talking shit.
Yep.
You know, like, we're doing fucking Dredd right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Motherfuckers wear spandex, bro.
Yeah, that was bad. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, guys, and we will see you next time.
That's right. It's been Cynical Cinema and Mr. Ron. I said, see ya!
Hey everyone, it's Ron here with a quick announcement. When I started this channel, I was reading and reviewing the Dune books and other sci-fi related material, and most of you might not know that I'm also a musician. So when I was reading these sci-fi books, I started to get inspired and decided to make my own soundtrack to use for my videos, and now I'm excited to tell you all about the first volume in the Ron Reviews original soundtrack collection. This album includes the first 17 tracks featured on my channel, and it's available now exclusively on Bandcamp. Be sure to check the description of this video for the link to the album. Thanks so much for the support so far. I know I'm just starting out, but I hope you're having as much fun as I am. So check out the original soundtrack Volume 1 on Bandcamp. This music is great if you want something moody and atmospheric to listen to while you're reading some science fiction. I think you're going to love it. Thanks.